Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for us Michigan Wolverine fans heading into the 2024 year as the Donovan Edwards running it back for his senior year. And for the Michigan fans that have been rocking with the fellas for the last couple of months, even a year at this point, Donovan Edwards, a guy that we consistently bring up as being potentially a massive part of this offense. And you start looking at the puzzle pieces in 2024 and what this offense is going to look like. I mean, you got to think Donovan Edwards getting more of a role in 2024 is going to be a massive part for this Michigan team. And Dill, not only a running back that has a ton of juice in terms of hitting that explosive play, but also a guy that can split out wide and be an elite pass catcher as well. More of an offensive weapon than just a running back. Can't wait to see Donovan Edwards get more opportunity in 2024. Want to talk about Donovan Edwards, what he brings to this Michigan offense coming into 2024. Give you guys some takes on Jim Harbaugh, obviously taking some NFL interviews later this week. Excited to get into it. Before we do, just want to say thank you to you guys and a special shout out to the Michigan fans. I mean, many of you guys know, huge Michigan fans. There's really nothing we love talking about more than Michigan football. The amount of support you guys have consistently shown the boys really does mean a lot. Special season in 2023. You guys rocked with us all year. Appreciate you guys. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, let's start with the Jim Harbaugh rumors and something that we deal with pretty much every offseason. I'll give you the T-box here. Jim Harbaugh potentially rumored to be taking some interviews to the NFL. Then we'll get to Donovan Edwards coming back.
Yeah, and certainly not expected. I think we all kind of thought if Michigan won the national title, then this would probably heat up. And frankly, I'm more okay with it now than if he left last year after the way that season ended, probably would feel different about him and his legacy at Michigan. But at this point, if he leaves having won that national title, and frankly, at this point, I think he's leaving behind a really good culture if they do the right thing in my mind and maybe elevate Sharon more and hopefully keep the bulk of the staff intact. I really think Michigan would be fine. I think this is an okay time to leave, especially if this is going to be the thing every year. Because
we talk about like coaches and you see how coaches leave programs. I think it comes down to, did you leave the program in a better spot than you took it over? And I think it's unquestionably, 3 straight years beating Ohio State, 3 straight years going to the college football playoffs, obviously capping it off with the national title. Talk about leaving this program in a better spot. Jim Harbaugh, he certainly did so in the same way we talked about J.J. McCarthy yesterday going to the NFL. I'll have 2 more favorite teams, right? Wherever J.J. McCarthy gets drafted, wherever Jim Harbaugh's coaching. This is a guy that we owe a lot of gratitude to as Michigan fans. So we'll see how it plays out. Don't want to touch on it too much because, again, we get these rumors. We talk about it all off season. We'll see how it plays out. If and when it does play out, we'll start talking about coaching candidates and what this team is going to look like in 2024. Dill, to the good news here, Donovan Edwards coming back. You got a personal favorite of mine. I'll give you the T-box here. Donovan Edwards, what does he bring to this Michigan offense in 2024 here?
Honestly, he was probably the most explosive player on the field. When we hit big plays, thinking to that Penn State game, that touchdown he had, obviously in the national title game. Now that's 2 straight years where in Michigan's biggest game, arguably, he makes huge plays. And that's like the type of thing he gives you, that ability to change the game on one play. And Blake Corum's an awesome running back. Obviously, that's why he probably did handle the bulk of the load, but he doesn't have that like 0 to 100 speed and acceleration through the hole to hit those monster plays. And those are huge because that, again, Michigan's offense, as good as it was solidly being able to possess the football and eat up clock, it really wasn't very explosive. There were way too many ruts. And again, in that national title game, Donovan Edwards, those 2 runs, they pretty much.
We won the game with Donovan Edwards. Washington only scored 13 points. We could have just had 2 Donovan Edwards long runs and win that football game. I think that's what I would echo. And as Michigan fans, what did we spend all offseason talking about 12 months ago is how can Michigan continue to manufacture those explosive plays? Donovan Edwards is a massive part of that. And what excites me about Donovan Edwards heading into 2024, probably going to be one of the league guys. Obviously, Kalel Mullings emerging as another dude we'll talk about. I think Donovan Edwards is one of those guys that you just want to get more touches to. You want to get the football in his hands more because not every play is going to be the 60-yard pop, but you're going to get them, right? And so if Donovan Edwards starts taking 15, 20 carries a game, you feel good about some of those explosive plays coming to Michigan. I think there's a lot of meat left on the bone in terms of Donovan Edwards being a down-to-down guy, right? Why did Blake Corum just have so much value to Michigan? He was a guy that would get 5 yards. He would get the hidden yards, right? Turn 2nd and 7s into 2nd and 5s. And how did Blake Corum develop that skill? Because, again, when he was a true freshman, you saw some of the same things, really not falling forward and kind of hitting the holes when he needed to. Donovan Edwards, being that lead back, that bell cow back, I think he can develop that aspect of his game where, hey, if nothing's there, and we're turning a 2nd and 8 to a 2nd and 5. I think Donovan Edwards has certainly the capability of that, but a guy that talk about juice, talk about hitting game-changing plays, certainly brings that as well.
In honesty, you've seen it get better. I mean, you think
Yes.
back to like the freshman year, it's like you still saw the plays, but the contact balance wasn't there. The first guy to get to him typically would take him down. I mean, he is getting better and better at finishing runs the right way, finishing how Blake Corum used to finish. And again, that's what kept Michigan on schedule, kept him out of the negative plays, kept him from being put in spots to turn it over or take sacks or do those things that would knock off, again, how Michigan operated, which wasn't hitting explosive plays really at all, but it was staying on schedule and being really sound. Again, I think Donovan started to play better. I think, frankly, the pairing with him and Mullings will be really interesting because Mullings is a hammer at that. I think he's really good kind of keeping teams on schedule. But I think more of a 50-50 workload gives Michigan maybe not 50-50. However it shakes out, he'll get a lot more work than he did last year. I think that gives Michigan an opportunity to be a little more explosive.
We talk about Kalel Mullings. You talk about guys that are taking steps at the running back position. And Kalel Mullings, that dude, I am very excited to see what he looks like as being that kind of batter and ram back that when you want to run downhill and be physical and invite contact, like that's what Kalel Mullings brings to the table. And you said it best, like Donovan Edwards, Kalel Mullings probably balance each other out in a very exciting way for Michigan fans. Now, I think the discussion around Donovan Edwards, a very talented running back, right? Heading into year 4 and getting more experience and more of that workload, I think is only going to help him. The true value I think he brings to this team that not enough people talk about according to the national media is what Donovan Edwards does as a pass catcher, right? You talk about hitting explosive plays and kind of putting defenses in conflict and trying to find the matchups that favor you. Donovan Edwards on linebackers coming out of the backfield or motioning him out wide and a linebacker follows him. That's barbecue chicken. And I think the more times Donovan Edwards is on the football field, the more that a defense has to be in conflict dealing with the running back that has wide receiver traits as a pass catcher. And so that's probably what I'm most excited for, is getting more snaps for Donovan Edwards, leading to more opportunities to exploit some mismatches that I think Michigan could really benefit from in 2024.
Well, because I know we kind of talked about that heading into certain games like Alabama. It's like that teams use running backs really effectively. And Corum, obviously, he did his thing against Alabama in the past, so it wasn't like totally necessary. But I know we kind of I think all of us were thinking like, man, can we get him the ball more, catching it out of the backfield? Because you're right, he's so good doing it, so effective, and he just wasn't on the field quite enough to really get those opportunities. So again, I think you can design your offense a little bit more around him. I think with him, it's not as much downhill running, but it is more being able to use him out of the backfield. And it just changes kind of the scheme a little bit. Not one's better, one's worse. I just think the way they might be able to operate might give them a little bit more of an opportunity to score more points and be more explosive, which was something, again, the defense was so good in 2023, so it didn't really matter all the time. But they did go through too many periods of like a quarter plus not really moving the ball at all.
And hitting those explosive plays. We talk about it all the time. And Michigan was so good at going on those 12-play 80 yards that eat up a half of the third quarter and scoring touchdowns and largely kind of choking out teams. That was Michigan's MO, and I expect it to be Michigan's MO for years to come. That being said, you still want to be able to sprinkle those explosive plays, right? Going back to Ohio State in 2022, when Donovan Edwards hits those plays, kind of buries the team. Going back to the Washington game in the national championship, hitting those 2 plays largely, getting Michigan off to the right foot and kind of changing those games. Like, you don't have those 2 40-plus yard runs for Donovan Edwards, that game might look a little different. I think you could even go to the Penn State game in 2023. Partially what excites me the most for Donovan Edwards, just a guy you want to root for, right? Somebody that would be playing a lot of football had he been on a lot of different other Power 5 programs. He happened to be right behind one of the all-time greats at the running back in the running back room with Blake Corum. Didn't necessarily have as many opportunities. He's looking at 2024 saying, this is kind of my year to really kind of break out. That's what's most exciting. Dill, I want to talk about this running back room. I'll just ask you a simple question. Who leads Michigan in rushing yards in 2024?
I think it'll be him, but I think it will be probably more evenly split than it was last year at the end of the day. I still think Mullings needs to touch the football. I think he does set the tone a little bit more physically, and just kind of how, again, what Michigan's culture has been built on, that toughness, that physicality. He does run a little bit more like that. But again, I certainly would like to see the offense be more explosive, and I think Donovan Edwards will have.
Do you think Donovan Edwards can develop that in his game? Like, I feel like when you're only getting like 3 to 4 carries, 3 to 4 touches a game, maybe you're just trying a little too much to hit those big plays and not really developing that. All right, it's 1st and 10. Let's go get 5 yards. And then when the opportunity presents itself and you're one-on-one with the safety, he takes a bad angle, you take it to the house. I think Donovan Edwards, like, he's a big physical back. He's not a guy that is 185 pounds. That's a spacey guy. He has the opportunity and the ability to operate in space extremely well, but he's a guy that can be big and physical. So what I'm most interested is seeing him get 15 plus carries a game and develop that kind of downhill. Like, sometimes I'm just going to get 5-6 yards instead of try to hit the big play. I think he can certainly do that. I would go with Donovan Edwards too. I think you see a lot of Khalil Mullings, potentially a lot of Alex Orji as well. You look at this Michigan team, the offensive line is going to be just fine. Like, we've talked about it. Yes, you're losing a lot of guys to the NFL draft. You have a bunch of hammers coming up. The offensive line is going to be good. The running back room looks to be loaded with guys like Donovan Edwards, Khalil Mullings. I'd shout out Ben Hall. I'd shout out true freshman Jordan Marshall, maybe Cole Cabana. This is a run game that we just won a national title with in 2023. I think we certainly can be a very competitive team running the football again in 2024 with the addition of a guy like Dono coming back for his senior year.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Again, I think Michigan will always, assuming they keep this coaching staff around, whether that's with Jim, whether that's without, that's what they built the program on. That's what you've recruited to. That's got to be what it starts and stops with. But yeah, at the end of the day, Donovan Edwards being more involved, I think you have more 30-plus yard plays at the end of the day.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm, again, a guy that's so easy to root for. You talk about those who stay will be champions. Like, Donovan Edwards is a perfect definition of that. Really excited about Donovan Edwards. We'll continue to update you guys on the Jim Harbaugh offseason saga that, again, happens every single year. Appreciate the Michigan fans rocking with the boys again. A special season. Can't thank you guys enough for rocking with. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.